Hey, welcome back, everybody. And today's guest is none other than Andrea Trinchieri. Andrea and me go back to Boston times when he came to visit us during a snowstorm in March, and we spent some time together. We talked a little bit about his background today, but mostly we dove right into communication and how to handle conflict. We talked about leadership within the team, how to cultivate it, accountability, how to hold players accountable, and some basketball specific knowledge and topics that some coaches may care about. I apologize for the audio in advance. It was not perfect sometimes, but there's still a lot of good nuggets and gems you can take away from. And I'm sure a lot of people will learn today a lot. So please subscribe to this channel if you're not subscribed yet. Comment, share with people who may benefit from this information. I think there's a lot of good knowledge in here that Andrea shared with us. As always, very metaphorical and informative. Other sports are coming soon, so stay tuned for that, as well as some coffee episodes, which I also can't wait to publish. So thanks for being a subscriber if you are one. If not, please click on this button below and on all audio platforms as well. And see you soon. Bye. All right, Andrea, we're live almost. How are you?
Okay.
Okay.
I just catch a terrible, terrible cold. I am sick the last 2 days, but now in these times, nobody trusts you, and they just send me to test every day to see if I got something more than a cold. But I was cleared, so all good, all good.
So you
It's
don't
very
know
cold in Germany, but now here in Nice is better.
you don't know if your nose is hurting from the testing or from the sickness, huh?
I don't know, both, but it's okay. It's okay. I'm happy that I don't get infected with COVID. So let's
Yeah.
go on.
Okay.
Let's keep rolling.
Yes. I so to go back on when we first met, or we spent a lot of time together was in Boston. That's where I remember the most time that we spent together. That's basically where we
Yeah.
mostly
Yeah.
started to form our relationship. What do you remember the most from that week? Which year was it? 2018 or I don't remember clearly.
Uh, um, Say it again because I didn't hear you. What I
What year?
remember from
What year was
the
that?
Boston, I believe was 2018.
That's what I think too. 18. Yeah, but
Yes.
we. What do you remember from that week
Yeah.
together? Because I have a clear memory of something.
I have, first of all, I have great memories. It was a great experience from basketball side and from the human side, because when the Celtics gave me the chance to attend to all their activities before the playoffs, I jumped on the plane and I came to Boston, and I had the luck that you were there at the same time. So uh, basically, you were my chaperone there. You were opening doors and everything. And from one side, I was totally immersed in NBA basketball. At that time, the Celtics were rolling. They were in a good moment. It's hurting a little bit now, okay, but time will come. Your time will come. And I remember that we spent so many time trying to find a good coffee in Boston and trying to exchange some life stuff, some basketball stuff. And basically we try to put many things on the table and try to pick the things that were interesting for both of us. So it was great.
Yeah, I think we had a lot of deep talk. Besides the legendary Fogo de Chao lunch that we had, we also we also spent a lot of time talking, having deep conversations. But I also remember the snowstorm where we drove, or I was driving through the
Yes,
snow. That
I
so
still
that
have all the pictures.
It was unbelievable. That week was
Yeah.
unbelievable, and my experience in Moscow helped me through that a little bit.
You were trained, well trained.
Well trained, yes, well trained. A lot of practice. So we will talk today about different. I prepare 4 quarters for you, and
Okay.
like for every head coach, I prepare usually 4 quarters. So the first
I
one will be
know.
a little
I
little bit
hear
of
to your podcast.
a little bit of background and personal things that we can touch on. Communication, which is my favorite subject, and most people know that, and we talked a lot about that as well. Then we will go a little bit into coaching and specific situations, and then we will dive into quick hitters and philosophy, just quick Q&A in philosophy. But to start on your background, in the beginning, when we were in
How many
Boston,
timeouts I got?
you have I'll give you 4 timeouts each quarter.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
during our time
Sounds good.
in Boston, you also mentioned that you have some history in Boston in terms of roots. And if Wikipedia and Google in general is correct with the help I searched for, you have Croatian, Montenegro, Italian, American, and Panama roots. Explain
Yeah.
in the most.
Uh,
It's a very broad spectrum of countries. How did that come along?
and I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed for that. I really understood lifetime how this helped me to have to be to at least try to be open-minded. And so my dad that studied in Harvard, so this is and was the son of the Italian consul in Boston that married a Kentucky woman. And talking now about him, he just passed away a couple of months ago. So it's, it's something that I like to remember this, it's a very good way to embrace his memory. Okay. So, and my grandfather, my grandfather, sorry, the father of my grandmother from the Kentucky was one of the 6 investors in the Panama Channel. So they had 6 American people that organized and invest in building the Panama Channel at the beginning of the century. And my father was there just for case, and he was born there 3rd March of 1931. So, and he stayed there for the first 6 months, and then they were going all through the Europe and the world, because usually every 2 years a consul change where he works. So he was in Palma de Mallorca, in Prague, in Berlin, in Edinburgh. So a lot of places. And he met my mom that has Montenegrin and Croatian roots. Okay, but that time was Yugoslavia. And he met her in London. Okay. So don't ask me why, because I ask and they never answer me why. So sorry. Why you met in London? You are Italian, half American, and you are from Croatia. Why you met in London? No answer. Okay. So, and then they moved to Italy. And I remember very well when I asked my dad, sorry, you are half American. Mom is from Croatia. Why you living in Italy? And that was, I believe, 96, 72, 3, something. I was 4 or 5. And he answered to me, this is the best place to live. So, and this is my roots. And I am I would repeat myself, I'm sorry, but I'm so blessed that I have this kind of roots. It's like a cocktail, there is everything inside, and that helped me really very much in my job.
That's one thing I wanted to get into, because I call this the spectrum of people. And I was exposed to a lot of people in my lifetime as well, because of I don't have as much, but I have also a lot of different cultures in my upbringing. I mean, I have one bloodline, but my upbringing was in a wide variety of cultures. And with this job especially, there's also a wide spectrum of people that I met in this job, whether it's coaches, sports directors, GMs, etc. And I feel it helps me to connect with people and put myself in their shoes better, because sometimes you feel that you feel sometimes that the other person may not understand you if you just keep talking the way you're talking. So sometimes you adjust to that person more than they can adjust to you, because and this is like, this is not a punchline. This is just, I know where they're coming from, so they kind of understand where they're coming from with the way they were talking. So I feel like I have this ability to understand better what they mean. And I feel like for you in your job is especially important, and that background gives you an advantage also in terms of coaching and on the floor talking, cursing in different languages maybe as well, but it's also a very good connector, don't you think?
Oh, you got the point. If I tell you now, Benas, that communication is the most important thing when you deal with human beings, in any job that you deal with the X factor that is human beings, I would tell you that right now in my job, communication is more important than X and O's. I can be the best, or I can work so hard on X and O's, and not being able to transfer this with poor communication, it's not working. So it helps me a lot, because it gives me the chance to know how people can feel. And I always try to say to myself, it's not important what you think of what this person thinks, is how he perceives the situation. It's totally different. And, now one time I was able to step in his shoes, okay? But now I believe it's more transversal, okay? You need to deal with culture, where it's coming from, education, family, expectation, job, fears. When you have in front of you a player or a coach, okay, you have his talent, you have his knowledge, but you have a person with his fears. And everybody has his own fears. And being open, when you go abroad, you studied in the States, right?
Yep.
So you took your bag and you travel over the ocean, and you were on one side super excited. On the other side, you were sometimes overwhelmed by what's coming next. And when a player comes to Europe, is doing the same thing. So he has his fears, his expectation, and just coming from different places with different routes, it helped me to understand how he can perceive his situation. And as I said to you, communication is the most important thing. I believe you agreed with me. This helps.
Yes, and I'm glad we're going there, because communication to me is my bad communication is my biggest pet peeve, and we'll get to that, because communication can be also have to do with lack of openness, where you're stubborn in your own ways and you're stuck in your own square.
Say it again, lack
of openness. Open?
Yes.
So you're stuck in your own square, and you don't see a different way of thinking, So that's when people are stuck in the same way they're living their whole life, and they're not able to grow from that because they're not able to receive other information. But throughout your journey, just to stick with your background for a little bit more, what do you remember from your journey as a head coach, since you became head coach, from turning from assistant coach in Milano to becoming a head coach in Cremona, I believe it was, correct?
Yes.
What do you remember the transition?
When I think of those days, I would say to myself now, wow, I was so naive, so not prepared enough. And as you say, I was not open. You know, when you jump from, basically, I left Milano because they didn't believe in me. They're just looking at me through me, like I was a piece of glass, okay? So after 7 years, I thought that I would deserve at least you considering me as a job, especially when they fired a coach on a plane in mid-February, okay? And when I understood that this was the last thing on earth that will happen, I said, okay, in order to do my job, I need to be happy. I need at least to have high motivations. And for this reason, I said, okay, I quit my job. And I took 6 months traveling to see basketball, to think. And then I had the opportunity to go in third division in Italy as a head coach, okay? You know, Italian second and third league are probably the best for quality and players leagues, second and third league in the world, okay? There's no, the gap about the budgets from first division or second or third, it's not so big like in Spain, for example, okay? You have players making 10, 12K a month, okay? So I had a chance just because an owner liked me, liked the interview, okay? And he was a little bit different because in front of me, there was 10 coaches that wanted the job, that had years of experience in that league, with specific players and all things like this. And I was the underdog, totally underdog. Zero experience as a head coach, never coached that league. He made me some questions in the interview, and maybe he had some instinct, and he gave me the job. But then I come in a place where all the eyes were on my back. I feel burns on my back from all the eyes on me, waiting for my mistake. Mm-hmm. And what I did, something that if I do now, I would say, you are so stupid. I did this. I said, okay, if I have to die, I'll die with my principles. Okay? So, no, I was not open. I just said, we do the things because I said we do the things this way. It was a way of showing authority without having authority. Mm-hmm. But I had the luck that I had some players that bought in, and I was successful. And then from that day, I understood how coaches can adjust to the situation and not fear the situation. I would never do now the same thing. I would always try to make my players, my club, do something. And what is this something we decide together? It's not me with the fist, We do like this because I said this is the right thing. I want players to play for me. For me, it's an extend concept. So that they do something believing in what we're doing. This doesn't mean that we are going to play without mistakes. Basketball is a game of mistakes. But at least there is some passion. And if I look now, I'm a total different person, a total different coach. I always tried as my mantra, as my most important thing for me was try to develop. I would love to say try to improve, but the development of a coach, of a player, is never linear. You make one step forward, 2 steps on the side, 1 step back, 3 steps forward. But that was my major goal in whole my career.
But would you say
you?
yes, yes? But would you say you got lucky with the players you had at the same time because they bought in? Because some coaches have their principles and they want to stick with their principles, but maybe their principles may not fit the players they have, although they're the right ones. But the players end up not believing in the coach, and then he dies.
That is a good question. I like it. I have only one recipe for this. You have to show to the players that you care for them. Then they will do more for you. And caring is not a general thing. You can care for his own improvement. You can care dealing with his fears. You can care calling a play for him to activate him. You can care giving him a better defensive matchup. You can care for him when you see him that he's tired that day, and you say, okay, let's go to the weight room. I need you for tomorrow. You want the player, a coach wants the player to care for the team, care for the result, care for the practice. The best way you can do it, you care for them.
How much is intuition versus experience in those decisions that you make when you send him to the weight room?
I believe that we are living in this moment. Basketball is the most basketball. When I say coaching, a season is the most situational thing that I ever experienced. That means that when you go on a plane, the pilot has a checklist, engine, flaps, this, that, tank, and everything. At the beginning of my career, I had a checklist. Okay. Imagine a checklist, but I had some. Now I don't have any checklist. I try to understand who I have in front before the player you have in front, the person. And I would never send somebody out of the practice to helping if he's lazy, because I will do a bad job towards the team because I'm setting wrong culture. But if somebody works hard, work his ass off every day, and one day he had a fight with his wife, with his girl, which just is a bad day at the office, why I shouldn't show him that I care? Every day is different. Every player is different.
Empathy.
Empathy, yes. Chemistry and empathy.
Yeah. So that's a good transition to the second quarter in terms of communication, because in like I said, it's a pet peeve of mine if there's bad communication, if there's things that are unsaid. So in terms, allow me to be direct here, but in terms of addressing problems, I think that you are not afraid of confrontation, correct?
No.
So
never.
So the confrontation factor comes into play during the game. It's one thing, okay? So there's a lot of impulsive situations that you can have, whether it's in a timeout, whether it's during the game, whether it's after a defensive possession. But in terms of addressing a problem away from the game, whether it's in practice, after practice, having a hard conversation, how do you prepare for a hard conversation with a player?
Okay, I will give you a more extent answer. One thing that I learned when I was in Partizan from my assistant coach, and it's something so simple, but it's so true, okay? So I have a demanding way of coaching, okay? I always come with a plan. I give individual plans. I try to have a purpose every day, and I want my players to follow, to buy in. Okay. And sometimes the risk is that you look control freak, okay? How many times you heard on a basketball court, coach, let me play. Let me play. Sometimes let me play means don't coach me, okay? I'm not the right guy, okay? And he said to me, from Monday to Saturday, coach is the God. Players should execute and do what you ask. On Sunday, they are players on the grandstand. They don't have to listen to you like they listen in practice. So they have to, you don't have to coach them with a joystick. They have to have the freedom and the instinct to play. But you build the right habits and the right culture from Monday to Friday, to Saturday. And Sunday, it's their game, and they put together on the court whatever you taught them. So confrontation should never be just for confrontation. If you have to establish your power as a coach, your authority with confrontation, you're dead. Means that you cannot, it's too late. So I never prepare for confrontation, but I'm always ready when a player thinks that he's above the team. So this is not tennis, it's not golf, this is a team sport. If somebody thinks that he's above the team, we have a problem. But on the same time, not every player is the same. Whoever says that every player has the same treatment and is the same as about the role in the team is bullshit. Sorry, beep. Sorry, it's bullshit. We cannot win games like this. You have to have hierarchy, roles. And so this is when I confront a player, okay? And I'm working because sometimes I was overreacting to mistakes to the player. This is my latest area of improvement. I have a dream. My dream is that the player knows when he has to go on the bench, okay? Because he knows exactly why he should go and why somebody else should come in his place. And this is when you go. In order to achieve this, you need to be straight and fair. Don't lie to your players. Even if you have to say something that they dislike, they will appreciate it if you care for them. If you just say something to point the finger, you're dead. You're dead man walking. But if you care for them and when they don't deliver, you said, hey, man, you didn't do this. We need you to do this. Okay? But same time, when he does it, you said, bravo, you did the right thing. It's not only one way. So you have to praise them and you have to say when they don't do it.
I think it's
straight and fair and honest.
It speaks for not having a double standard for each player or each individual, and still being authentic with your principles, because I keep going back to that on every time the subject comes up, because players at the end, they respect truth, they respect authenticity. If they see that it comes from a good place and passionate place, that you are in it together. It's not that you are against them, that you are all working for the same goal, and they feel the authenticity in your voice, in your emotions, and that it comes from an honest place. I think that's the key.
That's the key. And it happened 5 days ago with one of my players. I freaked out, okay? And I address the thing that I had to address. And he's a sensitive player, okay? And he said to me, I appreciate what you're doing because you're authentic. And you say to me the truth in order for me to be better. So thank you. A player, in a confrontation, but use the word that scares me a lot. Double standard. Double standard has a negative impact, okay? But I don't believe you can treat everybody the same. This is not a double standard. the standard is no one is above the team, but the roles are very clear.
Mm-hmm.
And I always, the first thing I do every season, I ask to my players, what is a role of a player in a team? Or they answer, the thing I have to do, the thing I can do for the team, And I said, no, the role of a player is what the team expects you to do. Because if you sign a player that comes and he wants to score 30 points and you need 20 rebounds, we have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So being straight, fair, and honest means I always tell to my players before they sign what I need, how I need it, and how I'm going to play them. Then, after the first 3 weeks of the preseason, I adjust, adapt, and reset, because before you have the players in your gym, you never know. Only after a period together, you know what to do and how to do it.
So let me ask you this: in those confrontations that you have, whenever a conflict arises, how good or how necessary do you see admitting to a mistake that you may have made in terms of confronting the player, and then in hindsight you see I was wrong? I feel, for me, I feel like it's important, and players respect most of the time, if they have the mental capacity, that you admit to a mistake that you did. Is that something you see necessary, or do you gloss over it and move on?
I do it on constant basis, but there is a but in this. I believe that I work my ass out every day. So in Italy, we say, only if you don't do nothing, you don't make mistakes.
Correct.
Okay. So I'm a human being. I do mistakes, and I'm never afraid to raise my hand in front of the team, in the locker room, in a film room, or on the court. The problem is that when you do too many mistakes, it cannot be a shortcut, because sometimes, you say, I did a mistake, but you have to believe that you did a mistake, and you cannot do it too often because you are paid to take right decisions.
Especially making the same mistake multiple times. I think that's a no-no. That's the same for everybody. You can make a mistake, but you cannot be the same mistake over and over again. That's for players, management, coaches, and anybody involved. From the conversations you have had in the past, from the rich experience you have had, do you remember one particular conversation that may stand out, that taught you the biggest lesson, that helps you still today in your career, that you feel like, man, I took away so much from this conversation that I feel like this will help me forever?
Oh, I had a couple of conversations with you that put the focus on things that I didn't think was so important. Sometimes less is more. And whenever, I would say even most of the times, whenever you are able to shrink a concept, condense a concept, condense a request in something that is short and very clear and sharp, okay, it's very important. So when we were talking about X and O's related to who you have in front, okay, it's all a matter of software. You can have the best X and O's in the world, but if the player that you have in front is not ready to take this, you're wasting time. Mm-hmm. And even the things they know to do, they will not do it because I cannot do this. And you see players that are playing, thinking, and you see them from the video in the gym because they are slow, because they are hopping, thinking what they have to do.
Reacting.
So we have to build instinct in the player, right instincts, reacting, exactly. So believe me, when we spoke about that thing, reading and reacting, it was a big thing for me. But in this moment, I have millions of things. Yesterday I was reading something about Albert Einstein, and one of his quotes said that if you're not able to explain something to a 6-year-old kid, you didn't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. It's true. If we are not ready to explain something that is clear and understandable for everybody, we're failing.
Yeah, that's absolutely the truth. It has to be simple. And there is a quote, and I wish I could quote it correctly, by Naval. The sign of a charlatan is explaining something in a complicated way, and the sign of a genius is to explain it in the most simple way possible. Something in that regard. I'm not good with quotes.
Something like yes, I remember.
Which conversations do you leave up to the management? Where do you not get involved? Where do you draw the line for your duties and the management duties?
I don't want to be involved in agents, so I don't want to talk to agents. If I have to, I just say how I'm going to play his client, okay, and what would be his role, okay, predicted role. Because then if he comes and doesn't practice or he doesn't want to do one thing, the role changes. Okay, and I don't want to deal with. Sorry, I always, recruiting is something that is funny to me, because when I heard some people recruiting players and say, you're going to play 30 minutes, you're going to shoot the ball 25 times. But my question is, they are all lying, because before you have the squad together, you don't know. Maybe in order to win the game, he has to make 25 screens per play instead of shooting the ball 25 times. And this, recruiting is something that always was shocking me. But okay, this is funny stories.
Yeah, you can't set the player up with false expectations, because you're setting yourself up for failure, the team up for failure, and the player up for failure. So he has to know the truth, and that's the same thing. Itutis also always said that the player will always know the truth of what to expect when he comes to the team. And then, as you say,
I don't want to deal with contracts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know the numbers on the contract. I just want to know how many years is the contract. Okay, because it's different to coach a player with 1 year contract or 3 years contract.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I don't deal with the political part of the club. So they tell me how they want to reach their goals, what they would like to see from me. Okay, and then with my management, I have exchanges of thoughts and communication on daily basis, before practice, during practice, after practice, when we travel, because we are a team. Also, management coach is a team in the team, but with clear responsibilities. I'm responsible of what they do on the court. They're responsible for many other things. And I don't like when we go over each other, so.
Yeah,
I have my area of responsibility. They have their own area.
Yeah, and the roles get defined, the responsibilities get defined as the season goes on, as you get to know also who you're working with and how you're working best together. Because some players, some teams that you're coaching, they might require a little bit of both. Then it's a matter of also, again, communicating with the management about how to solve the situation, because it may be a different approach to it.
Yes, another thing that I want to add is that I don't believe that for how is the schedule, for how we are working as coaches now, the coach can decide the roster. We don't have time to scout players because 90 games, 80 games per season, it's really difficult. Okay. But I believe you have to say what you need as a coach. And then the management comes, we can sign this, and that, and then you put them together, because if you sign this guard, you need that 3-man and that 4-man. So you try to match the players. Okay. But it's very rare to say, I want this player, because it happened when I know the player or something like this. But I always try to start from philosophy. What is the philosophy of the team? Okay. Then how we're going to play, what players we need in order to play that way.
So do you think teams in Europe are undervaluing this part of scouting and anticipating the next season? Totally,
yes.
Huh? Mm-hmm.
Totally. I don't know. You can say it better, but how many money NBA invest in scouting and evaluating players?
I mean,
a lot.
A lot.
I don't believe we are doing the same. A lot. So I don't believe that we can match that, but the gap is too big.
Yeah, relatively speaking, it has to be a bigger amount of what it's being done now. Most of the European teams, most of Euroleague teams are investing in that, but I think there's still a lot of upside left in terms of having a scouting staff and having the correct preparation for the following season, because you have to live ahead. Let's talk about leadership a little bit, because communicate. Can you define leadership for me?
I would. I like to lead by example more than words. I don't believe that you can do Al Pacino stuff in any given Sunday, every game. Okay. So you want your team to be prepared and focused, start from you. This is leadership. You are prepared and focused every practice. You come with a practice plan. You come with the teams divided in 3s, 2s, 4s, 5. You talk with the conditioning and strength coach about what is the load management for this and that player. So this is leadership. Leadership is, don't be afraid to say, I made a mistake. Okay. And leadership is, don't be afraid to take decisions. Because if you are taking a decision, so you're taking a decision and you are afraid of the consequence, you will never take the right decision. So a coach has to take decisions. Who to play, why to play him, how to play him, who's the go-to guy for that game. Okay, what is the best coverage against that player? In the past I had, many experiences, and I will never forget when I was 30 years ago, I was assistant coach, and we were preparing the game, and we were playing 5-on-5. They were running the plays of the opponent, and they were playing pick and roll. Okay. And our veteran asked the coach, what kind of defense we do on pick and roll? And the answer was, play defense. Okay. Sometimes I disagree, but maybe one time you can provoke your players to find a solution, but you cannot hide. This is your responsibility. The coach has to say how we want to do it, with whom we want to do it, and the players have to execute it. So this is leadership. Take decision. Don't be afraid to take decision. And when you fuck it up, you raise your hand, but you cannot fuck up every day. I'm sorry.
But to get to that point, as you said, in terms of leadership, to be able to make a decision and to be able to take responsibility, I think what you said in the beginning, the foundation for that is preparation. right? You have to be prepared in practices. You have to be prepared in order to make a decision, an informed decision. You have to have all the information and put in the work.
Correct. I fully agree. I will add one thing that is very important that the coach has, okay? It's culture. Because this is going to help you to deal with many things. Okay, I can see a coach having success if he's narrow-minded. Because having success is, you have to convince a group of players with their own expectation, their own goals, to have a collective goal, to put the things together and play together, giving up a little bit of their ego. And when you know the words to use, when you have culture of the life, history, you can always take away the pressure of the moment with irony. Greg Popovich is a genius. Why? He doesn't talk only about basketball. If you talk only about basketball, maybe you think that you're doing a great job. But then it's only about basketball, and you need to win games with men. Sometimes you just need to man up.
You need
win the game
with people. You're working with people, so you cannot always be basketball. It has to be philosophical life situation.
I won even titles. So I played years ago at Game 5, okay, to win the title. Okay, last game of the season. So we played that team 8-9 times. So they were better, but somehow we managed to tie the series. And, as a coach, you want to play Game 5 and to prepare everything. So you want to be ready to know how they're going to warm up. So, and this is over coaching, guys, but you play Game 5, you are also hyped, And the day before, I went in the film room for the meeting, and I had this, I was lucky. I said,
epiphany.
Instead of I prepared a video, okay, I prepared a video, the game plan was ready and everything. And I saw my players, when you see their legs moving, I see a lot of energy going in their body language, a little bit nervous, okay? And then I said, guys, tomorrow Game 5, tell me, you want me to prepare tactically this game with all the things coming from that? Or you just won't go out there and kick them in their ass without too many tactical things? I will just give you one thing for the defense and one thing for the offense. Of course, they chose the second way, and we won by 15.
I think especially in these Game 5s or finals, Final 4s, in these do or die matches, I think the less information, the better it is. It's just like the players have to play at the end of the day and not think the game. The more they think, the more they become static, the more the games become static, slow, and then you're taken away from your own strengths. I mean, I've never been a head coach in that position, but from experiencing from the sideline and to see that when you see that guys are overthinking, it gets like there's like a rock in the wheel, and then you see it evolving, it's getting worse and worse and worse. So the easier it is for the players, because most of the time at this level, they already have the experience and they process, especially if you play the team 8 times. A lot of times at the end of the day, it's about the individual strengths and weaknesses of players, and if they've played the team often enough to anticipate and to understand what's coming.
It's very true, but you know how difficult is our job. And sometimes a coach says, if I don't do nothing, maybe we are not gonna be good enough, okay? So I believe that the answer is always in something that is well balanced. Okay. You cannot just say, go out there and play. You give them 1, 2 informations for offense, 1, 2 for the defense, and you convince them that they have enough to win the game because they can do it.
On top of that, if you don't prepare and if you just give it and you lose, then you look like an idiot, or you risk looking like an idiot, because at the end of the day, it's easy to blame you.
Idiot.
It's easy to blame the coach if you don't prepare.
It's always, the coach is there. He's in the spotlight. It's easy to shoot at the coach.
Yeah.
There is always a sniper in every gym, in every arena.
To go on top of leadership in terms of communication with players. So the captain is one of the most important pieces of the ship, I would say. How do you see the role of a captain, and how do you communicate with him? In what situations do you feel necessary to talk to the captain in private? What do you feel is the role of a captain?
I believe the captain is more important in national teams, where his role is like God, I believe. Okay, almost. In the teams, not always the captain is the captain. Means you have a player there many years, or you have a player that just came in and has a personality. I would like to say that I talk individually with all my players every 2-3 days. Can be 20 seconds, can be 20 minutes. There's no one way. You can talk on the court, you can talk in your office, you can talk drinking a coffee, you can talk at the restaurant, you can talk inviting people at your place. And sometimes you have to open towards your players. They have to see what is behind your yelling or your demanding. Mm-hmm. So I try to build the right hierarchy, but I talk with everybody. And then you have to adjust to how the player can use when you talk to him. Means use as an advantage for him and for the team. There are players that you can talk only about themselves because they are not able to process a bigger picture, including other players. And you have players that can process not one team, 3 teams together, because they are so experienced, they're so open and oriented to help the team. So I really go back to my thing that I said before, it's a situational way of coaching. Every player is different. Every player needs different attentions. And when you have assholes, you call them in the office, But what you can do, what is the room for improvement when you just put somebody in the office? You have to do this, that. I always want players to buy in. So maybe I have a complicated personality, and he will never expect for me to be invited in my place and I cook for him or his wife. Never, but I do it. Mm-hmm. And then he goes home and thinking, what is he trying to do with me?
I think that's an important factor that a lot of people or a lot of coaches may be afraid to do, because they're open up too much to the player and then they make themselves vulnerable. But I think showing vulnerability and opening up, it's a sign of strength instead of weakness. And it's obviously, you have to know how to cook, first of all. I don't. But second of all, you also have to know and have the ability to understand the player and to be able to have a conversation also outside of basketball and make him understand that we're all human beings at the end of the day.
I disagree with one thing you said. Vulnerability. I believe that you have to show them that they can harm you, but you are not vulnerable, because you know that he can harm you, but still you have the team above everybody. So they will harm you personally, but you're not going to become a vulnerable coach. Mm-hmm. Because you don't have one son, you have 15 sons, 15 person to take care of.
And out of those 15 people, do you feel you can, if you don't have a clear leader of the pack, do you feel like you can teach them how to lead and so a leader emerges? Is that something that's giving natural, or do you feel like you can have them somehow rise to the top and be a leader of the pack to some capacity? Emotional or intelligence wise, or
very interesting question, Benas. I have a wide answer.
Okay.
There is many different ways a player can lead. A player can lead old school players meeting. You say, you have to play defense, we have to get better, we have to win this game, blah, blah, blah. Okay? Not very common anymore. Huh? You have players that are leading, being the best version of themselves any given day, night in, night out, practice, shoot around, stretching, film room, game. They are setting the tone. They are leaders. So if you don't have both of this, it's difficult that in a season you can create a leader. But you can put the seeds in the soil, and in one season, 2 seasons, something will bloom.
If they don't leave.
This is our bigger problem.
Yes.
Biggest problem.
Yes. So before we go into the coaching aspect, in terms of that addressing and talking to the leaders and having them emerge, accountability is a big factor. Do you have a system or a philosophy that of how to hold players accountable throughout the season? Is there something that you have throughout your rich experience throughout your career that you use in certain situations?
Okay. One former player I had played also NBA. When we were signing new players, okay, he was saying welcome to them, to calling them, and every time the new player asked, how is the coach? And he was saying to him, listen, the only thing that you have to be prepared is that when you come, be mentally ready, because you will never get tired physically. But if you come and you don't want to use your brain in practice, he's going to understand it after 2 steps of the first drill. And you will have headache. So I always try to build accountability culture. And if I'm the only bad cop in the building, we have problems. Every time I was surrounded with 1, 2, 3 players that were taking care of telling to the new guys how we do business in this club, in this team, I was very successful. So you cannot be the only one that demands. I lived with these great players, Danilovic, having this unbelievable personality. You saw that a personality on the court more than their huge talent, okay? And I saw, because I was sneaking in every practice I could all over the world, okay? And you see this great player just shooting, with the passer. Every time the pass was not perfect, he throw the ball back and said, this is not the pass I'm going to have tomorrow in the game. And like this, you said, and to an assistant coach or to a player, he's setting a tone for everybody. These players are the core values for a coach. You cannot do the job by yourself. I don't let the things go easy. I always try to keep my players accountable, but I need players to help me, players, coaches, and organization, because sometimes you need your GM to talk to the player. And I believe that it's super important to have a player development coach in your organization. And I tell you why. A player will never come to me and say to me, hey, I cannot shoot the ball going left. Because he will think that if I know his flaw, I will not play him. But the player needs to open to somebody in order to improve. Otherwise, he will never fix some parts of his game. And this is also a way of keep the players accountable, to have somebody they can trust, they can talk, and he shares the same team culture I have, but he's not the coach. He doesn't evaluate his effort on the court. He doesn't decide how many minutes, how many shots, or how many opportunities he's going to have. It's a teamwork.
Yeah, you need side gigs that help you to
yes, sir.
to veer the players into the right direction together.
Yes.
And that keeps everybody on the same page. I can see that. I can totally see that. So if we're talking about the coaching and coaching style, has your coaching style changed over the years, you would say? And if yes, in what direction?
Every year is different.
No.
I'm a tailor. I have to make a suit. But every year the material is different. The color are different. So I want tailor-made stuff. And it's, I really see all the aspects of the game. First of all, I believe that a good coach should know different ways to make his team functions. And I tell you this because we cannot keep the same players for 10 years, not even for 5, not even for 2. So if you're able to adapt, you are a better coach. If you are able to make a team win playing post-up or playing pick and roll, playing switching defense or playing drop, every team has their best way of playing. So every year I polish something, I trim something, I adjust something. I try to do what is best for my players. This is another way of caring for them. Same time, I don't make shortcuts and compromise about values.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, keeping your principles in check. That I think is the main thing. But you have to adjust to the personnel you have, the personalities you have, and like you said, it changes from year to year. So, and we get back to the adaptability of your wide spectrum of people that you've experienced, and I think all of that comes into play.
Hopefully.
What's the expectation from your assistant coaches? What's one thing you could say you expect during games, one thing during practices, and one thing off the court? What are like these 3 expectations in these 3 different scenarios?
Okay, first thing, they need to understand what I need. I make a stupid example. I have one player that is playing bad and he's not performing. As a coach, you see all his mistakes. You don't miss one mistake. It's like the spotlight. You have perfect, crystal clear picture. Same time, you don't see all maybe the few things that he's doing good. So in that moment, he needs to understand that and tell me, yes, you are right, but he's doing good this. He's helping you to manage a player that is struggling. So I need that they are not yes men. They express themselves. Even if I say white and they say black because they believe black is the right thing, at the end of the day, it's my responsibility, the decision, but I need confrontation. I need to discuss about things in order to be better. And in practice, they have to coach against me. I'm talking about offense. They have to put my offense in troubles with adjusting, changing angles of the defense, forcing to one side, switching. So they make my job harder, but better.
That sounds like fun to adjusting on the fly all the time.
Yeah. The other thing now because I heard your podcast with Bogut about the shot chart, giving to the player. Hey, listen, I learn every day. I believe the colors of the shooting chart is very clear to the players. And I believe it's something that I add in the last weeks. Okay. And then empathy.
Yeah, being able to put themselves in your shoes and understanding what the situation is calling for in that moment. Sometimes it's to be the yin and the yang towards in coach. Sometimes you also have to be on the same side and agree. There's a lot of intuition.
For example, filter analytics. Mm-hmm. You know, it comes like this of numbers of analytics, and somebody should filter them to give me only the main thing that I have to focus on. For example,
filter.
Yes, filter.
I have a quote for you, and maybe you can tell me who said it. Different. And it's in regards to a certain basketball situation. This is the difference between living in San Diego and Mexico.
I said it about the spacing.
Yes,
it's the spacing in the corner.
Yes, can you elaborate on that?
Yes, it's not geometrically correct, but give me some room to set it. I believe you can space horizontally on the half court and vertically. Vertically means from the half court line to the baseline. Horizontally means sideline to sideline. I see the tendency of many players when they're weak side corner, or even worse, ball side corner, okay, that they space in La Jolla instead of Tijuana, okay? It's basically one step that changed completely the defensive situation in helping. And I always tell them, please, I want you in Mexico. Stay deeper, stay in the corner. Cross that border. I know it's dangerous down there, but please, stay there.
Yeah, and it's most of the players have to understand, which I found it's also at the highest level they do understand, that it's not about him standing in the corner, it's about his defender standing too close to the ball and not being able to
I would say something more simple to you. Sometimes players should understand then what they think is best for them is not the best thing for the team.
Mm. Yeah.
That step is not important for them, but it's super important for the team.
I have nothing more to add to that. I have one last thing about basketball, about coaching, and about a particular situation that I wanted to address, because I think, and I'm going to go on a tangent a little bit, and you can add to it of what you think about it, because I think the most underrated action in the game to me is the cutting, the action or skill.
Oof.
But I think the cutting in various situations is the most underrated thing that I see. And I'm not talking about the drive before you catch with the ball, but I'm talking about like cutting behind the defense, behind the help on the post traps from the baseline. I'm talking about the cutting in against the next defense, against the Spanish defense. I prefer the cuts, and there's like the situations that I remember from your practice was also the cutting out of the short roll situations, where a guy from the corner cuts, or the guy from the 45 can cut. But I remember one thing that we talked about, and most of the time it's the guy from the corner that's cutting on the short roll situation to make it life easier for the big with the ball. But we go back to the communication part, and I found it very interesting, and maybe you can elaborate on that. How do you make the player understand that he has to cut when he's the worst shooter, the lesser shooter? Because we talked about it, and you know, when you tell a player, hey, you cut because you can't shoot, and I want a better shooter on the perimeter, there's a certain way of getting your point across. So do you leave that to read between the lines, or do you address it and tell them, I want the better shooter on the perimeter, and that's why you cut? How do you not overstep the line of getting your point across and offending the player possibly?
Okay. I always ask my players, what do you want from this season? 90% they will say to win. Okay. Then I come to the cutting action and I say, you remember when I asked you, whoever, what do you want to win the games? Yes. Well, I want to win. I said, so in order for us to win, what is better? To have a 50% 3-point shooter cutting, or to have a 50% 3-point shooter staying to punish the next? The answer, I already gave them the answer. But it's not enough. I want my players to buy in. So I have a push shooter. I talk to him. I organize session of extra shooting with a player development coach. And sometimes you put him in a place where you don't have to cut, but just be ready to catch and shoot. I ask something, and I give something. So we want to win games. Same time, we want to make our players better. So if I just tell him, you cut because you are a bad shooter, he will do it, but the cut will be slow. It will never be a threat for the defense. Same times, now you are a lesser shooter than this guy, but we are going to work in order you to become a better shooter. So you, against the next defense, is the guy that's going to stay there.
You want him to be invested in whatever he does. So you have them understand why he is doing it, and that he can become the guy that's not cutting.
Definitely, yes.
So fourth quarter, I want quick. These are quick hitters. Okay, so I have philosophical quick hitters, and we're going here.
Okay.
My special ATOs for you. One advice from your current self to your younger self.
Do not consume yourself too much.
Best worthwhile personal investment you've made in the past?
This is my tendency. Invest time, money, sacrifice something of your free time, of your family time, to be the best version of yourself. Traveling, talking to coaches, watching practices all over the world. And how you can ask to your players to improve if you didn't want to improve, if you didn't invest in improving. Action speak louder than words in every sport, in everything you do in your life.
How do you overcome failure?
You analyze it, you swallow it, and you have to have the right motivations to bounce back. But you cannot just throw it back without analyzing. You have to know exactly why you failed in order to don't fail again.
If you had to teach one class in basketball tomorrow, what would that be and why?
Say it again. If I had to teach?
If you had to teach one class in basketball tomorrow, what would it be and why?
The first thing that I would like to address is I know so many guys that blew their opportunities and they regret it. Live without regrets. If you like it, go all the way. Don't miss the opportunity just because that day you were lazy. I always say it happens very often. I tell you this. I go to my players and I ask them before the practice. I hug them and I say, what is your goal for today? Coach, I want to have a good practice. And I say, no, everybody wants to have a good practice. This is too generic. Yes. I want to go hard. No, everybody should go hard. This is the basics. They are paralyzed because many young players don't have a purpose. So I tell them, why you don't come to the practice and you want to improve one aspect of your game? Do you think that if you make 10 mistakes passing the ball off the dribble with the left in practice, I will kill you? No, you're going to show me that you're humble, that you're working hard, and you have a purpose for that day. And that practice will work like 10 other practices where you just didn't have a purpose. This is what I would address to have a purpose and don't blow opportunities.
If you're having dinner tomorrow night after the game and you can invite 3 people dead or alive, who would it be?
Can I answer twice?
Yes.
So can I give you 2 answers?
Yes.
Rasputin, I'm coming. We have so many people. Rasputin, Winston Churchill, and Nikola Tesla.
Interesting.
And the second one is Nico Zizis. Benas Matkevicius and Daniele Baesi.
Great dinner. I can't wait. Two more things. There's the one quote for you, and I'm paraphrasing from Alex Ferguson's book. And Alex Ferguson said that a team is supposed to reflect the manager's or the coach's character. If you had to choose, if you would describe your team that would accurately represent you, what's one characteristic you want them to reflect?
Passion. They love what they do, and they do it because they love what they do.
Because you love what you do.
Yeah.
And the last one, what drives you?
What drives me crazy? That was the question.
What drives you? Why do you have this drive?
I started from the bottom. I started coaching 9th division. I fall in love for this game. Basically, I coach almost every category, every year, under 12, under 14, under 13, under 14B, not the good team, the bad team, 15, 16, 17, 8th division, 9th division, 3rd division, 2nd division, 1st division, Euro Cup, Euroleague. And I was not a good player. I didn't have a sponsor. I didn't have anybody to push me. And I just wanted to be the best version of myself and try to live my dreams. And I started coaching very early, 19, because I understood that I would never be any kind of player. Okay. But I wanted to coach Euroleague when I was coaching 9th division. And that was my dream. I don't believe that I can say that was my goal because it was too far, but that was my dream. And now my drive is to make my players better, to make my team better, to win one game, or to be able to cope with the loss and bounce back. I'm blessed for what I do. Sometimes I stop and I look behind and say I sacrifice the best years of my kids, my family, in order to coach. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I don't know if I did the right thing, but I cannot come back. And hopefully my kids will understand what I did and why I did it. I do basically this also to give them the chance to choose in their life. I believe the biggest freedom for a human being is to be able to choose what to do. And but this drive is still present. Every practice is like the first practice. And every time I see a player is ready to be better, to become better, it's party, it's a blessing. So I don't know what's next. I know that tomorrow morning there is shoot around. This is next. And then there will be a preparation, then there will be a win or a loss. Then there will be players to be pushed or players to be supported.
Andrea,
the drive is the journey.
You're invested and you're a blessing to this profession. I can tell you, it's always a pleasure to talk to you because I gain a lot of insight from you, and there's a metaphorical way that you have of talking that it's really influential, and it's really motivating to me, to others. You get your point across in a different way, and I think that's a very special trait that not many coaches, not many people in general have. And we get back to communication, where we all know how important it is, and you are one of the best communicators and one of the best people who can get their point across in a proper way. And I thank you, grazie mille for this
thank you.
conversation. I enjoyed it, and I think there's going to be a lot of nuggets, a lot of gems for players, for coaches to take away. And I hope to see you soon. And we're going to have this dinner. We're going to make this dinner happen with Nikos and Daniele.
Super. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank
Ciao.
you.
Peace and love.
To everybody. Peace.